I'm standing in my own living room, well, technically his living room since apparently I own nothing anymore, watching my husband introduce his mistress as his future wife. Emily, Daniel says with that smile he reserves for closing business deals. Meet Victoria Collins. She'll be taking over as CEO of Thornton Medical, and of course she'll be taking your place in other capacities. Victoria extends her hand like she's doing me a favor. Designer suit, perfect highlights, the kind of confidence that costs money. Lots of it. My money, probably. And then she places her other hand on her stomach. That universal gesture, the one every woman recognizes instantly. We're also expecting, Daniel adds, his voice dripping with pride. Just a few weeks along, but we couldn't wait to share the news. Finally, I'm going to be a father. Finally. As if I've been the obstacle all along. I should be crying, screaming, throwing his golf trophies through the bay windows, but I'm frozen, staring at her face, at that practiced maternal glow, that smug little smile, because I know her. I know exactly where I've seen that face. 3 weeks ago, hospital corridor, room 347, the reproductive medicine wing, my wing, where she came for artificial insemination, where she sat in a consultation room discussing donor sperm and optimal timing. Not Daniel's baby, never Daniel's baby. And suddenly, the fear I've been carrying for 7 years transforms into something much more interesting. I straighten my spine for the first time in months. A strange calm washes over me, the kind doctors feel when a diagnosis suddenly becomes clear. I look directly at my husband, not at her, at him. Congratulations on your impending fatherhood, Daniel, I say, my voice steady and cold. But that baby isn't yours. It can't be. The room goes silent. What are you talking about? His voice is sharp, defensive. You're infertile, Daniel. Severely infertile. You have been for years. I've known since we got tested. That baby growing inside your future wife? Donor sperm. Room 347, 3 weeks ago. My hospital, my department. I saw her file. Victoria's hand drops from her stomach. Daniel's face goes white, and I realize, for the first time in 7 years, I'm not afraid anymore. But let me back up, because you need to understand how I got here. Standing in a $14,000 custom suit that I'm not allowed to buy, in a house I'm not allowed to decorate, watching a pregnant woman steal my husband while I hold the secret that will destroy them both. You need to understand how a smart, successful doctor became someone who apologizes for breathing too loudly. My name is Emily Reeves, not Thornton, Reeves. I took that name back, and let me tell you, it felt better than my wedding day. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm 32 years old. I'm a reproductive medicine specialist at Boston Fertility and Women's Health. I have a medical degree from Johns Hopkins, a fellowship in reproductive endocrinology, and more letters after my name than some people have in their entire name. I help people have babies. It's ironic in ways I'll explain later, but it's also the thing I'm genuinely good at. I love my work. Loved it, past tense, during my marriage because Daniel made sure I understood that work was a cute hobby I had, like other women collect teacups or do yoga. But we'll get to that. Before Daniel, I had friends, a social life. I went to book clubs and wine bars and said yes to things. I had a small apartment in Cambridge with plants I actually remember to water. I was myself. Remember that word, myself. It's important. I wasn't looking for a relationship 7 years ago. I was focused on my career, paying off student loans like every other millennial with an advanced degree, and generally enjoying the specific type of exhausted satisfaction that comes from work that matters. And then I met Daniel Thornton at a hospital charity gala. The gala was one of those Boston events where old money meets new medicine. Everyone's dressed like they're attending a minor royal wedding, and the champagne costs more per glass than my monthly electricity bill. I was there because the hospital makes the younger doctors attend these things. Networking, they call it. Parading us for rich donors, we called it. I was standing by the hors d'oeuvres table, trying to figure out if I could fit an entire stuffed mushroom in my mouth without ruining my lipstick, when a voice behind me said, "The shrimp are better." I turned around, and there he was, Daniel Thornton. 6'2", tailored tuxedo, the kind of jaw that makes you wonder if God plays favorites. He had this smile, confident, warm, practiced. Later, I'd recognize it as the smile of a salesman, but that night it just seemed magnetic.
The shrimp? I repeated intelligently, because apparently medical school doesn't prepare you for attractive men at charity events. Trust me, I've been to 40 of these things. The mushrooms are always disappointing. The shrimp, however, he picked one up, examined it like a jeweler appraising a diamond, properly prepared. Despite myself, I laughed. You rate hors d'oeuvres at charity galas? Someone has to. Daniel Thornton. He extended his hand. His handshake was firm, just long enough. Professional. Thornton Medical Equipment. We supply about 60% of the devices in this hospital. Emily Reeves. I use about 60% of those devices, probably. A doctor. His eyes lit up. Genuine interest or a good facsimile? What field? Reproductive medicine. I help people have babies when biology isn't cooperating. That must be rewarding. He said it like he meant it, not like he was making polite conversation. Playing God a little bit. I should have caught that phrase. Playing God. Should have heard the resentment underneath the admiration.
But I was 25, and he was handsome, and he was looking at me like I was the only person in a room full of Boston's elite. We talked for 2 hours. He was charming, funny, self-deprecating in a way that felt genuine. He told me about building his father's company from a small supplier to a major player in the medical equipment field. He asked about my work, my research, my opinions on healthcare policy. He listened, or seemed to listen, which amounts to the same thing when you're 25. When the event ended, he asked for my number. For dinner, he said, somewhere with better food than this. I gave it to him. Why wouldn't I? He was successful, attractive, interested. Red flags don't wave themselves at you with labels. They look like romantic gestures. Daniel didn't just call. He called the next day.
Made a reservation at Oleana for Friday night. When I showed up, there were flowers at the table. Not roses, which would have been cliché, but peonies, which I'd mentioned loving during our 40-second conversation at the gala. You remembered, I said, genuinely touched. I pay attention, he replied. That should have been warning sign number 1. Not that he remembered, that he said it out loud. People who are genuinely attentive don't announce it. But again, I was young, and this felt like something from a movie. The first 3 months were a whirlwind. Dinners at the best restaurants, weekend trips to New York, Vermont, Martha's Vineyard. He sent flowers to my office, not every day, which would have been excessive, but just often enough that my colleagues started asking questions with raised eyebrows. He was interested in everything about me. My childhood in suburban Connecticut, my relationship with my parents, good, stable, boring in the best way, my friends, my ambitions, my fears, my dreams. I told him everything. Of course I did. That's what you do when you're falling in love, right? You open up. You trust. You share. I didn't realize I was handing him an instruction manual on how to dismantle me. His family loved me, or said they did. His mother, Patricia Thornton, was one of those Boston Brahmin women who smile with their mouths but not their eyes. A doctor, she said at our first meeting. How progressive. His father had passed away 5 years earlier, and Daniel spoke about him with this mixture of reverence and resentment that should have told me everything I needed to know about how Daniel viewed authority and control. My friends liked him, mostly. My best friend Sarah had reservations. He's very intense, she said after meeting him for the first time. Intense how? I don't know, the way he watches you, like you're a project. I laughed it off. Sarah was being overprotective, I thought. She'd been burned by too many bad relationships and saw red flags everywhere. I was a grown woman, a doctor, educated, independent, capable of making my own decisions. All true, and all irrelevant when you're dealing with someone who views relationships as acquisitions. After 8 months, Daniel proposed. We were at a beachside restaurant in Cape Cod, sunset perfectly timed, ring obviously expensive. He got down on one knee in front of the entire restaurant. Everyone applauded. Emily Reeves, he said, you're the most brilliant, beautiful, perfect woman I've ever met. Make me the happiest man alive. Marry me. How do you say no to that? In front of strangers, with a ring that cost more than your car, when you're genuinely in love, or what you think is love. I said yes. Obviously, I said yes.
The applause was deafening. I should have heard the warning bells underneath it. I wanted a small wedding. Immediate family, close friends, maybe 50 people total.
Something intimate and meaningful. A garden ceremony, handwritten vows, wildflowers instead of orchids. Daniel wanted 300 guests, a ballroom at the Four Seasons, a 12-piece orchestra, and ice sculptures. "It's important for my reputation," he explained when I suggested scaling down. "My business contacts expect a certain standard." "But it's our wedding," I said. "Shouldn't it be about us?" He smiled. That smile I was starting to recognize, the one that meant he was about to get his way. "Of course it's about us, and I want to celebrate us properly. You deserve the best, Emily." See how he did that? Turned his wants into my deserving, made me feel selfish for wanting something simpler. This is called reframing, and people like Daniel are experts at it. So we had the big wedding. 300 guests, most of whom I'd never met. His business associates, his mother's social circle, his college fraternity brothers. My side of the church looked sparse by comparison. My parents, Sarah, and a few other friends, some colleagues from the hospital. I wore a dress his mother helped pick out. It wasn't my style, too much beading, too formal. But she kept saying, "This is what a Thornton bride wears," and I was too tired from planning to argue. My vows were about partnership and growth. His were about how I completed him, made him whole, how he'd take care of me forever. At the time, it sounded romantic. In retrospect, it sounded like a declaration of ownership. The reception was beautiful, in that impersonal, expensive way that money creates. Everyone said it was the wedding of the year. I smiled until my face hurt and danced until my feet bled in the Louboutin heels Daniel's mother insisted I wear. On our wedding night, at the luxury hotel suite, Daniel handed me a box. "What's this?" "A gift? Open it." Inside was a new iPhone, top-of-the-line model. "You didn't have to. I added you to my family plan. It's better this way. And I installed a couple apps we can share, so we can always find each other." He said it with such warmth, such care. I didn't ask what apps. I didn't think to check. I just said thank you and kissed him. That was my first mistake as a married woman. It wouldn't be my last. And if you're already screaming at your screen, "Emily, run!" subscribe now, because this story is about to get so much worse before it gets better. The actual honeymoon was 2 weeks in Italy, Rome, Florence, the Amalfi Coast. It should have been magical, and parts of it were, but there were moments. In Rome, I wanted to see the Borghese Gallery. I'd been reading about the Bernini sculptures for years. Daniel wanted to go to a business dinner with a potential client who happened to be in the city. "It's just one evening," he said. "We have 2 weeks." But I really wanted to, Emily. He said my name like a teacher correcting a slow student. "This deal is worth $3 million. The sculptures have been there for 400 years. They'll still be there tomorrow." We went to the dinner. We didn't make it to the gallery. There was always something else, something more important, something that couldn't wait. In Florence, I bought a leather journal from a street vendor. It was beautiful, handcrafted, the kind of thing you can't get anywhere else. 20 euros. Daniel saw the charge on our shared credit card. 20 euros for a notebook? Emily, you can't just spend money on impulse purchases. It was 20 euros. It's not about the amount, it's about being responsible. We're building a life together. That means being mindful. I apologized. I actually apologized for spending 20 euros on something that made me happy. That's how it starts. Not with a slap, not with screaming, with small corrections, little adjustments, until you're apologizing for existing. When we returned from Italy, the question of where to live came up. I had my apartment in Cambridge, small but mine. I'd painted the walls myself, hung my own art, arranged my books in a system that made sense only to me. Daniel had a house in Beacon Hill, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a kitchen that could cater events. Historic, expensive, impressive. His father's house, technically, left to him. "It makes sense for you to move in with me," he said. "More space, better neighborhood, closer to my office. But it's farther from the hospital. You can drive, or I'll get you a car service." I like my commute. I walk and clear my head. "Emily."
There was that tone again, patient but strained. My house is worth $2.3 million. Your apartment is a rental. This isn't a difficult decision. When you frame it that way, it sounds rational, obvious even. Why would anyone choose a small rental over a historic Beacon Hill house? Except I loved that apartment. It was mine, my sanctuary, my space. But I was being unreasonable, wasn't I? Childish.
Sentimental over a rental property. I moved in. Daniel helped, which was generous of him. He also helped by suggesting which of my belongings were suitable for the house and which should go to storage. My colorful throw pillows? Too casual for the living room. My abstract art prints? We have actual paintings here, Emily. These look like dorm room decorations. My collection of quirky coffee mugs? We have a full set of Wedgwood china. 90% of my possessions ended up in a storage unit in Somerville. I told myself it was temporary, that we'd integrate our styles eventually. The storage unit is still there. I'm still paying for it. Haven't opened it in 6 years. 3 months into marriage, I came home late from the hospital. Emergency C-section, complicated case. Mother and baby both fine, but it took hours. I was exhausted, covered in God knows what, desperate for a shower and sleep. Daniel was waiting in the living room, not reading, not watching TV, just sitting, waiting. "It's 11:30, he said. "I know, I'm sorry. Emergency case. I texted you. You texted me at 6 p.m. saying you'd be late. It's 11:30. "I know, but the surgery was complicated, and then there were complications with, do you know how it looks when my wife doesn't come home? When I'm sitting here, dinner cold, having no idea where you are? Daniel, I'm a doctor. Sometimes emergencies, other doctors manage to keep their spouses informed. Sarah's husband knows where she is. Sarah's husband is an accountant who works 9 to 5. But I didn't say that. I was too tired to fight. You're right. I'm sorry. I should have called. Yes, you should have. He stood up, walked past me to the stairs. I'm going to bed. Your dinner is in the trash. He'd thrown away the dinner. Not put it in the fridge, not left it out, thrown it away, because I'd been saving a life. I stood in that kitchen, still in my scrubs, and I cried. Not because of the dinner, I wasn't even hungry, but because something felt wrong and I couldn't articulate what. This became the pattern. I'd work late, he'd be angry. I'd try to explain, he'd accuse me of not prioritizing our marriage. I'd apologize, he'd forgive me with conditions. The conditions were always about control. If you're going to be late, call me every hour. If you have to stay, find someone else to cover. Maybe you should talk to your supervisor about reducing your hours. Family comes first, Emily. Don't you want a family? And there it was, the children question. A year into our marriage, Daniel started talking about babies. Not in the abstract someday way couples do, but with urgency, planning. We should start trying, he announced over breakfast one morning. Okay, I said, because I did want children eventually. Just not urgently. I was 27. We had time. We can start tonight. He said it with this smile, like he was doing me a favor. We started trying, which sounds romantic, but quickly became clinical. Daniel tracked my cycle with an app. He'd check it every morning. Tonight's optimal, he'd say, like he was scheduling a business meeting. Sex became a transaction, a biological function. He wasn't interested unless it was optimal timing. On the days that weren't optimal, he stayed late at work. After 6 months without results, Daniel's patience evaporated. You need to see a specialist, he said. I am a specialist, not your own specialist, someone objective. Maybe you're doing something wrong. Doing something wrong? Daniel, fertility isn't 6 months, Emily. Most couples conceive in 3. Actually, it's perfectly normal for it to take up to a year, even for healthy couples. So you're saying I'm not healthy? See what he did there? Twisted my reassurance into an accusation. This is gaslighting, by the way. The term gets overused, but this is textbook, making you doubt your own professional knowledge, your own reality. That's not what I said. Then what are you saying? Because from where I'm sitting, we've been trying for 6 months and nothing. So either you're not doing it right or there's a problem. Fine, I'll get tested. I got tested at my own hospital. The advantage of being a reproductive medicine specialist is that I can order my own labs, interpret my own results.
The disadvantage is that there's no barrier between you and bad news. My results came back perfect, textbook perfect. Ovarian reserve excellent, hormones balanced, no structural abnormalities. I was, from a fertility standpoint, a poster child for reproductive health, which meant the problem was probably Daniel. I sat in my office staring at my labs, knowing what I had to do next. I had to convince my husband to get tested, and I knew exactly how well that would go.
I got my results back, I told Daniel that evening. Everything looks good, but the doctor says both partners should be tested, just to rule everything out. He looked up from his laptop. Both partners? It's standard protocol. We need a complete picture. Are you saying there might be something wrong with me? I'm saying we should both be fully evaluated. It's basic medicine. His jaw tightened, that muscle in his cheek that pulsed when he was angry. Fine, I'll do the test. But when it comes back clean, I don't want to hear any excuses. He got tested. Semen analysis at the same hospital where I work, which meant I had access to his results. They came through on a Tuesday afternoon. I was between patients when the email notification popped up. I opened it reflexively. I processed dozens of test results daily. And then I saw the numbers. Sperm count, severely low. Motility, poor. Morphology, abnormal. The kind of results where natural conception ranges from highly unlikely to essentially impossible. My husband was infertile. I sat there, staring at my computer screen, feeling the weight of this information settle over me like concrete. This wasn't just a medical diagnosis. This was a bomb that would detonate my marriage. Daniel's entire identity was wrapped up in being powerful, virile, successful. The man who built his father's company. The man who won the beautiful doctor. The man who would have the perfect family. This diagnosis would destroy him. Or more accurately, he would destroy everything around him rather than accept this truth. I thought about it for exactly 10 minutes. Then I made the worst decision of my life. I falsified his results. Not officially, I'm not a criminal, but when he came home that evening demanding to know the results, I lied. "Everything looks great," I said. "Your counts are excellent." "See? I told you." He looked so relieved, so vindicated. "So the problem is with you." I swallowed. "It seems that way. Did they say what's wrong?" "They're still running some tests, but it looks like I have some egg quality issues. Diminished ovarian reserve. I used real medical terms to make the lie sound legitimate. Can it be fixed? Maybe, with treatment. But Daniel," I took a breath, "it might mean we can't have biological children. We might need to consider alternatives, adoption or—" "No." His voice was flat, final. "We're not adopting. We're not raising someone else's kid. We'll fix this, whatever it takes." "It might not be fixable." "You're a fertility doctor, Emily. Fix yourself." He walked away, didn't comfort me, didn't hold me, didn't acknowledge that this was supposed to be difficult for both of us, because in his mind, it was only difficult for him. I was just the defective vessel failing to deliver what he'd purchased. That was the night I started losing myself. After the diagnosis, my fake diagnosis, Daniel's treatment of me changed. The mask didn't just slip, it fell off completely. The criticisms became daily. "You can't even give me a child. What good are you? My mother was right about you. All those degrees and you can't do the one thing women are supposed to do. Maybe if you ate better, exercised more, took better care of yourself." I was running 5 miles a day and eating salads. I'd never been in better physical shape. But when someone tells you you're failing every single day, you start to believe it. He started controlling my schedule more aggressively. "You don't need to work these hours. It's not like your career matters now anyway. Cancel that dinner with Sarah. We have plans." We didn't have plans. "Your parents can wait. They're not going anywhere." Slowly, methodically, he isolated me, cut me off from my support system, made sure the only voice I heard was his, telling me I was broken, worthless, failing. The financial control came next. We had a joint account, which I thought was normal for married couples, but Daniel wanted receipts for everything. "What's this charge for $45? Birthday present for Sarah. We need to discuss large purchases before you make them." $45 isn't— "It adds up, Emily. We can't be wasteful." This from a man who spent $200 on single bottles of scotch. But his purchases were investments and necessary business expenses. Mine were frivolous and irresponsible. I started using cash for anything personal, hiding purchases like a teenager hiding cigarettes from parents. The emotional roller coaster was the worst part. Days of cold silence followed by sudden affection, rage alternating with apologies. I'm sorry I lost my temper. It's just, I want a family so badly. You understand, don't you? And I'd forgive him. Of course I'd forgive him. Because he was hurting too, wasn't he? Because I was the one who couldn't give him children. Because maybe I deserved some of his anger. That's what abuse does. It makes you believe you deserve it. 2 years into this nightmare, I noticed changes. Small things at first. Daniel started working late. Not occasionally, constantly. 3-4 nights a week, he'd text, "Big deal closing, don't wait up." He became obsessed with his appearance. New cologne, expensive haircuts every 2 weeks instead of monthly. He joined a gym and actually went, which he'd never done before. His phone became Fort Knox. He'd take it to the bathroom, sleep with it under his pillow, get jumpy when notifications came through. I'm not an idiot. I'm a doctor. I observe, I analyze, I diagnose. But when I raised it, he made me feel crazy. "You're paranoid," he said. "I'm building a business. That takes time. I just noticed you're gone a lot. What, you want me to quit? To fail? So we can be broke and childless?" See that? How quickly he weaponized my supposed infertility? Every argument circled back to it. Every concern I raised became evidence of my deficiency. Maybe if you were a real woman, I wouldn't have to spend so much time at work. Maybe if you could give me a family, I'd want to come home. You're so focused on me. Maybe focus on fixing yourself instead. I found the first concrete evidence 3 months before the final confrontation. A receipt in his suit pocket. I was taking it to the dry cleaners, being the good wife. Dinner at Mistress. 2 entrees, 2 cocktails, a bottle of wine. I'd been home that night, alone, eating leftover Chinese food and watching Netflix. When I confronted him, he didn't even blink. Business dinner with Richard from MedTech Solutions. The receipt says table for 2. Yes, Richard and me. That's 2 people, Emily. Is math hard for you too? I let it go. Because what else could I do? Call the restaurant and ask if Richard from MedTech Solutions was there? Hire a private investigator? Admit to myself that my marriage was a lie? Instead, I swallowed it. Added it to the growing pile of things I didn't examine too closely. The perfume was harder to ignore. I smelled it on his collar one night. Not my perfume. I wore light citrus scents. This was heavy, floral, expensive. "There's perfume on your shirt." He sniffed it, shrugged. Probably from that networking event. You know how women are at those things. Air kissing, hugging. I can't control other people. This is a lot of perfume for an air kiss. Jesus Christ, Emily, are you seriously going to interrogate me about perfume? This is why I don't tell you anything. You turn everything into an accusation. Gaslighting 101. Make the victim doubt their own perceptions. Make them feel unreasonable for noticing obvious things. It works. God help me, it works. I apologized for noticing perfume, for having concerns, for existing, essentially. By year 5, I was a shell. I still looked like Emily Reeves on the outside, went to work, smiled at patients, delivered babies, but inside I was hollowed out. I'd stopped calling Sarah, stopped visiting my parents. They asked too many questions, noticed too many things. It was easier to avoid them than to explain why I was always tired, always anxious, always apologizing. My colleagues noticed. Of course they noticed. I'm a doctor at a major hospital. These people aren't stupid. "Emily, are you okay?" my supervising physician asked after I snapped at a nurse over something trivial. "I'm fine, just tired." "You're always tired. And you've lost weight. When's the last time you took a vacation?" "I don't know, a while." "Take some time off. That's not a suggestion." I took a week off. Daniel was thrilled. He had a business trip that week to Los Angeles. I spent 7 days in our house sleeping 14 hours a day and wondering when I'd become this person. My therapist friend would later tell me I was showing classic signs of depression, but I wasn't seeing a therapist. Daniel didn't believe in therapy. It's self-indulgent, he said. Everyone has problems. You don't need to pay someone to listen to you whine. So I kept it all inside, let it rot there, turning toxic. I fantasized about leaving. Late at night, lying next to him, I'd imagine packing a bag and disappearing, starting over somewhere, becoming Emily Reeves again instead of Emily Thornton, the defective wife. But I couldn't. Where would I go? Back to my parents, at 32 years old, admit I'd failed at my marriage, that I'd let everyone down? And financially, God, the financial situation was a maze. Daniel had consolidated our accounts, put the house in his name only because of some tax advantage. My salary went into our joint account, which he monitored obsessively. I had maybe $3,000 in an old savings account he didn't know about. That was it. My financial independence reduced to $3,000. I was trapped. And the worst part? I'd built the trap myself. Every time I agreed to something that felt wrong. Every time I apologized for being upset. Every time I let something slide to keep the peace. I'd laid every brick in my own prison. 6 months before the end, I knew for certain. He was on his phone laughing at something. Actually laughing, something he rarely did around me anymore. I walked behind him to get to the kitchen and I saw the screen. A text message from V. Can't wait for tomorrow night. Wear that thing I like. He saw me seeing it. Our eyes met in the reflection of the kitchen window. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he locked his phone. Client, he said. Victoria Collins. She's got a weird sense of humor. That didn't sound like a client. Well, it is. She's taking over a major account. I have to keep her happy. By wearing that thing she likes? It's an inside joke about a tie. Jesus, Emily, you're seeing things that aren't there. Am I? He stood up, and I instinctively stepped back. He'd never hit me, let me be clear about that, but the threat was always there, in his posture, his tone, the way he moved into my space. Yes, you are, because you're so miserable with yourself that you need to make me miserable too. You can't have children, so you don't want me to be happy. That's what this is really about. That's not... I work my ass off to support us, to pay for this house, to give you a comfortable life, and you repay me by accusing me of cheating based on a text message about a tie. He grabbed his keys. I'm going out. Don't wait up. He left. I stood in the kitchen, shaking, wondering if I really was crazy. Maybe it was about a tie. Maybe I was reading too much into things. Maybe my own misery was making me paranoid. That's what prolonged abuse does to your brain. It makes you doubt everything, including your own eyes. But I'm a doctor, and doctors investigate. I didn't hire a private investigator. Didn't need to. I had access to something better. Hospital records. Victoria Collins, the name from his phone. I'd heard it before. He'd mentioned her as a potential business partner, but I'd never met her. I shouldn't have done what I did next. It was a violation of privacy laws, of HIPAA regulations, of basic professional ethics. But I did it anyway. I searched our hospital system for Victoria Collins. She existed. Patient records from 3 weeks ago. Appointment in the reproductive medicine wing, room 347. My wing, my department. My hands were shaking as I opened the file. I shouldn't have had access. She wasn't my patient. But the system was logging me in as an attending physician with broad access. Victoria Collins, 29 years old. Initial consultation for fertility treatment. Presenting concern. Planning for future pregnancy. Wants to understand options. She'd met with Dr. Patterson, my colleague. The notes were detailed. Patient is single, no current partner. Interested in artificial insemination using donor sperm. Wants to discuss timing, success rates, and process. Patient is in excellent health. Regular cycles, no apparent fertility issues. Scheduled for baseline labs and HSG next month. Single, no current partner. Donor sperm. I sat back in my chair, the pieces falling into place. Daniel's mistress, because that's clearly what she was planning to have a baby. Without him, using donor sperm, which meant either A, she didn't know Daniel was infertile, or B, she knew and didn't care, because she was never planning to have his child anyway. I closed the file, logged out, sat in my office with this information burning in my brain. I should have confronted him, should have packed my bags, should have called a lawyer. Instead, I went home, made dinner, pretended everything was fine. Because what was the alternative? Blow up my life based on medical records I'd accessed illegally? Admit I'd been so desperate that I'd violated patient privacy? So I waited, watched, endured. And 3 weeks later, Daniel brought her home. I came home from work on a Wednesday. Normal day, routine surgeries, nothing special. I was tired, always tired, and looking forward to maybe a bath and an early night. Daniel's car was in the driveway. Unusual for 6 p.m., but not alarming. What was alarming was the Porsche parked behind it. Sleek, black, expensive. The kind of car that makes a statement. I walked in through the front door. They were in the living room. Daniel, standing by the fireplace with that smile, his closing a deal smile. And her, Victoria Collins, even more beautiful in person than in her patient photo. Tall, blonde, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. She was sitting on my couch like she owned it. "Emily," Daniel said with false cheer. "Perfect timing, come in, come in." I stood in the doorway, briefcase in hand, trying to process the scene. "Emily, this is Victoria Collins. Victoria, my wife, Emily." Victoria extended her hand. Her smile was sharp, predatory. "I've heard so much about you." I shook her hand mechanically. It was cold. Or maybe my hand was cold. Everything felt cold. "Victoria is going to be joining Thornton Medical," Daniel continued, "as CEO." The words didn't make sense. CEO? But you're CEO. "I'm transitioning to chairman. Victoria has an impressive background in medical technology. She's going to take the company to the next level." "I see." I didn't see. "That's congratulations." "Thank you." Victoria's smile widened. "Daniel has been incredibly generous in giving me this opportunity." There was something in the way she said generous, something mocking. "And," Daniel continued, and I knew from his tone that the real bomb was coming, "Victoria and I have some personal news, too." My heart stopped, literally felt like it stopped. Victoria and I are together. We've been together for 8 months, and we're getting married. The room tilted, or I tilted, hard to say. "You're what?" "Getting married, once our divorce is finalized. Our divorce." He said it so casually, like he was discussing switching phone carriers. "I know this is sudden," he continued, not sounding sorry at all, "but I wanted to tell you directly. I respect you too much to let you find out another way." Respect. He used the word respect. Victoria was watching me with this expression, amusement, curiosity, like I was an interesting science experiment. "We've already drawn up the papers," Daniel said. He picked up a folder from the coffee table. "Everything's outlined here. The house stays with me, obviously. The company is being restructured. Victoria is taking your shares." "My shares?" "Your shares. The ones you received as part of our marriage agreement. They're being transferred to Victoria as part of her compensation package." "You can't just—" "It's all legal. Check with a lawyer if you want. But the bottom line is, you're out. The house, the company, the marriage, all of it." I looked at Victoria. She was examining her nails, not even pretending to be uncomfortable. "You'll get some money, of course," Daniel continued. "A settlement. Enough to get an apartment, start over. I'm not a monster." He really said that. I'm not a monster. This man who'd spent 5 years systematically destroying my self-worth, isolating me from everyone I loved, making me believe I was fundamentally broken, he wasn't a monster. Something in me, something that had been bent and compressed for years, suddenly straightened. I looked at Victoria, really looked at her, and I recognized her. Not from Daniel's phone. Not from today. From 3 weeks ago. Room 347. The patient file I'd illegally accessed. She'd been in my hospital, in my department, planning a pregnancy without Daniel. And suddenly, everything clicked into place. "Miss Collins," I said slowly. My voice sounded strange, steady, strong. Not my voice from the last 5 years,
my voice from before. You came to Boston Fertility and Women's Health 3 weeks ago. Her expression changed. Just slightly, a flicker of surprise. Daniel frowned. What? Room 347, I continued. Consultation with Dr. Patterson. You were inquiring about artificial insemination, using donor sperm. The color drained from Daniel's face. What are you talking about? I kept my eyes on Victoria. You're planning to have a baby, just not with Daniel, because you know Daniel can't have children, don't you? Victoria's smile didn't fade. If anything, it grew. Well, she said.
This is awkward. Emily, what the hell are you talking about? Daniel's voice was rising. You're making things up. I'm not making anything up. Victoria came to my hospital seeking artificial insemination. She's not planning to have your baby, Daniel. She never was. Daniel turned to Victoria. Is this true? Victoria stood up, smoothing her skirt. She looked utterly unconcerned. Oh, Daniel, you didn't really think I wanted to have children with you, did you? The room went very quiet. I mean, she continued, almost conversationally, you're infertile. Emily's known for years, haven't you, Emily? She looked at me with something like respect, or maybe recognition, one predator acknowledging another. Wait, Daniel was looking between us. What? Your test results, I said quietly. 3 years ago, when you got tested, the results weren't good. They were terrible. Severely low sperm count, poor motility, abnormal morphology. You're infertile, Daniel. You always have been. But you told me. I lied. To protect your ego, because I knew you'd react exactly how you're reacting now. Victoria laughed, actually laughed. Oh, this is delicious. She's been covering for you this whole time, taking the blame for your inadequacy? Daniel lunged for her. I'd never seen him move that fast. You bitch! Touch me and I'll have you arrested, Victoria said coldly, stepping back. Don't be stupid on top of everything else. You used me, Daniel said. His voice was shaking. You pretended. I didn't pretend anything. You assumed. You assumed I was in love with you, that I wanted to be Mrs. Daniel Thornton, that I gave a damn about anything other than your company. The company is mine now. Check the papers, Daniel. Really read them. Those shares Emily mentioned, they weren't just ceremonial gifts. They were controlling shares, and you just signed them over to me. That's not. I didn't. You did. Last month. The restructuring agreement. You were so eager to push Emily out that you didn't read the fine print. Or maybe you're just stupid. Either way, as of 5 p.m. today, I own 51% of Thornton Medical. Daniel grabbed the folder, started flipping through pages. I watched his face change as he read. You can't, he whispered. This isn't legal. It's completely legal. I had 3 lawyers review it. You signed it voluntarily, in front of witnesses. I'll sue. You'll lose. And you'll look like an idiot, again. Victoria picked up her purse. Here's what's going to happen. I'm taking over the company. You're being removed as chairman. There's a vote tomorrow, and I have the majority. I'm appointing my own board. And then I'm going to systematically strip every valuable asset, rack up enormous debts, and leave you holding the bag when the whole thing collapses. Why? The word came out as a gasp. Why would you do this? Victoria paused at the door. Because I can. Because men like you, men who think they can buy people, control people, abuse people, deserve to lose everything. Consider this a public service. She looked at me. Good luck, Emily. I hope you take him for everything he's worth, which, as of tomorrow, won't be much. And she left. The door closed behind her with a quiet click. Daniel and I stood in the living room, surrounded by the wreckage of his life. She can't do this, he said. He was talking to himself, not to me. She can't. There has to be a way. The lawyers will fix this. He turned to me, and for the first time in 5 years, I saw fear in his eyes. Emily, you're a doctor. You're smart. You have to help me. We can fix this. We can... No. The word hung in the air. What? No, I'm not helping you. But the company, 200 employees, their families. Now you care about the employees? Emily, please. I know I've been difficult, but we can fix this together, you and me. Like we used to be. Like we used to be. As if there had ever been a we used to be that was good. I picked up my briefcase. I'm going to pack some things. What? No, you can't leave. I need you. Emily, please. Goodbye, Daniel. I walked up the stairs. Behind me, I could hear him starting to cry. I didn't look back. I packed a bag. Not everything, just what I needed. Clothes for a week, toiletries, my medical journals, the few photographs I still had from before Daniel. Daniel followed me around the house like a lost puppy. It would have been pathetic if it wasn't so infuriating. Where are you going? Hotel. Which hotel? I'll come with you. We can figure this out together. No. Emily, please. I know I've made mistakes, but mistakes? I turned to look at him. Really look at him. Daniel, you spent 5 years systematically destroying me. You isolated me from everyone I loved. You made me believe I was broken, defective, worthless. You cheated on me. And now you want to call that mistakes? I was under a lot of pressure. Everyone's under pressure. Not everyone becomes abusive. I never hit you. No, you didn't. Congratulations. You want a medal for only psychologically torturing me? He flinched. Good. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. Just don't leave. Not now. Not when I need you. When I need you. Not, I love you. Not, I can't live without you. Just, I need you. Because that's all I'd ever been. A tool, an asset, something to use. Goodbye, Daniel. I left him standing in our bedroom, his bedroom, and drove to a Marriott near the hospital. Checked in under my maiden name, Reeves. It felt like coming home. That night, I slept for 12 hours straight. No nightmares, no anxiety, just sleep. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Daniel. I blocked his number. Then I called Sarah. Emily? She answered on the first ring. Oh my God, I've been trying to reach you for months. Are you okay? And I started crying. Not sad crying, relief crying. The kind of crying that happens when you finally let yourself feel everything you've been suppressing. I left him, I said. Thank God, she breathed. Thank God. Where are you? I'm coming to get you. For 3 days, I ignored everything related to Daniel and Thornton Medical. I stayed at the hotel, went to work, came back. Simple, clean, mine. Sarah brought me wine and Thai food. We talked for hours. I told her everything. The abuse, the lies, the affair, Victoria's con. Jesus Christ, Em, why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because I thought it was my fault. Because I didn't want to admit I'd become that person. You didn't become anything. He made you feel like that. There's a difference. On the 4th day, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Dr. Reeves? This is Margaret Chen from Thornton Medical. I'm head of HR.
My stomach dropped.
Yes?
I'm calling because, well, there's been a situation. Mr. Thornton has been removed as chairman. The new CEO is making significant changes. There are rumors about layoffs, asset liquidation. The employees are terrified.
Why are you calling me?
Because we know you're smart and connected. And frankly, Mr. Thornton is useless right now. He's been drinking in his office for 2 days. You're the only person who might be able to help.
I should have hung up. Should have let the whole thing burn. Daniel deserved it. But 200 people worked at Thornton Medical. 200 people with families, mortgages, kids in college. People who had nothing to do with Daniel's cruelty or Victoria's revenge. I'll look into it, I heard myself say. But I'm not doing this for Daniel. I'm doing it for the employees.
Understood. Thank you, Dr. Reeves. I spent the next week becoming an expert in corporate fraud law. I called in every favor I had. My medical school connections included lawyers, business consultants, people who knew people. I discovered that Victoria was smart, but not quite as smart as she thought. She'd covered her tracks well, but not perfectly. The restructuring agreement Daniel signed, it was legal, but it was rushed. And when you rush legal documents, you make mistakes. Victoria had forged some board member signatures. Not well, but enough that an expert could catch it. She'd also backdated some documents, which is illegal. And she'd made promises to investors that she had no intention of keeping. Securities fraud. I compiled everything, built a case, took it to the SEC, to the State Attorney General's office, to every regulatory body I could find. Then I called a meeting with Thornton Medical's board, the real board, the one that existed before Victoria's takeover.
The board meeting happened in a conference room downtown. 8 board members, 2 lawyers, Margaret from HR, and me. Daniel tried to attend. I had security remove him. "Gentlemen," I began, "and ladies, I'm Emily Reeves. Some of you know me as Emily Thornton, but I'm reclaiming my maiden name. I'm here to save your company." I laid out everything: the forged signatures, the securities fraud, the backdated documents, the illegal transfer of shares. Victoria Collins committed multiple felonies in her takeover attempt. I've already filed complaints with the SEC and the Attorney General. But that's not enough. We need to act now before she liquidates more assets. "What do you propose?" asked Thomas Reed, the oldest board member. "Emergency injunction. Freeze all company assets. Challenge the validity of the restructuring agreement. Restore Daniel's controlling shares, temporarily. Then remove him permanently and appoint legitimate leadership." "Remove Daniel?" Thomas looked shocked. "He's incompetent. He signed away his company without reading the documents. He's been abusive to employees and created a toxic work environment. He needs to go." I showed them documentation: HR complaints I'd obtained from Margaret, financial irregularities under Daniel's leadership, evidence of his affairs being conducted on company time using company resources. "However," I continued, "he is still the legal owner, for now. We restore his rights, stabilize the company, then force him to sell. The board buys him out. He walks away with money. You keep the company. Everyone wins. Except Daniel. But frankly, fuck Daniel." The board voted unanimously. The next 3 weeks were hell. Beautiful, righteous hell. We got the injunction, froze Victoria's access to company funds, challenged every document she'd signed. She fought back, of course, hired expensive lawyers, threatened countersuits. But I had something she didn't. I was telling the truth. The forged signatures were confirmed by forensic analysis. The backdated documents were proven by metadata. The securities fraud was obvious once investigators looked closely. Victoria Collins was arrested on a Wednesday morning. I wasn't there, but Margaret sent me a photo. Victoria in handcuffs, being led out of the Thornton Medical Building. I didn't feel joy. I felt nothing, just relief that it was over. Daniel's shares were restored. The board meeting to remove him was scheduled for the following Monday. He called me. I don't know how he got my new number. "Emily, thank you. You saved me. You saved everything." "I didn't save you, Daniel. I saved 200 innocent people. You just happened to benefit. Can we meet? Talk? I want to make things right." "The only thing you can make right is signing the divorce papers. My lawyer will be in touch." "Emily, please." I hung up. My lawyer was a shark named Patricia Goldstein. Sarah recommended her. "She specializes in high-net-worth divorces where abuse is involved," Sarah said. "She'll destroy him." Patricia did not disappoint. "You want everything," she said at our first meeting. It wasn't a question. "I want what's fair." "Honey, fair is everything. He abused you. You saved his company. You're entitled to half of everything, plus emotional damages." We filed for divorce 2 weeks after Victoria's arrest. Patricia demanded half of all marital assets, half the value of Thornton Medical, spousal support for 5 years, complete financial disclosure, payment of all my legal fees. Daniel's lawyer tried to negotiate. Patricia laughed in his face. "Your client emotionally abused my client for 5 years, made her believe she was infertile when he was, isolated her from family and friends, cheated on her, then tried to leave her with nothing. We have documentation. We have witnesses. We have HR complaints from his own company. Take the deal, or we go to trial and your client's reputation becomes public record." Daniel took the deal. The divorce took 4 months to finalize. 4 months of back and forth, of financial disclosures, of dividing a life I no longer wanted. I got $2.3 million in cash, half of liquid assets, $4.5 million in stock value, my portion of Thornton Medical, the investment portfolio, my freedom. Daniel got the house. I didn't want it, too many bad memories. His remaining shares in Thornton Medical, which the board promptly bought out, forcing him into retirement. A reputation in tatters. Nothing else that mattered. We met one final time to sign the papers,
at Patricia's office. Daniel arrived looking like he'd aged 10 years. Maybe he had. He tried to talk to me while we waited for the lawyers. "Emily, I know I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know I did love you. Once." I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd occupied 5 years of my life. Who'd made me question my worth, my sanity, my value. He looked small. "No, you didn't," I said quietly. "You loved the idea of me. The doctor wife. The trophy. The woman who'd give you perfect children and ask for nothing. You never loved me, because you never knew me." "That's not true." "It is, and somewhere deep down you know it." The lawyers came in. We signed. Pages and pages of legal documents reducing a marriage to clauses and stipulations. When it was done, I took off my wedding ring. It was still on my finger. Habit, I suppose. I'd meant to remove it weeks ago. I set it on the table between us. "Goodbye, Daniel. Will you ever forgive me?" "I don't know. Maybe someday, but it doesn't matter. Forgiveness is for me, not for you." I walked out of that office as Emily Reeves, free. I'm sitting in my new apartment right now telling you this story. It's a small place in Cambridge, close to my old apartment, actually. I can walk to the hospital again. I have plants. They're alive. Thriving, even. The past 6 months haven't been easy. I'd love to tell you I walked away from Daniel and immediately became this empowered, healed person. That's not how it works. I started therapy, real therapy, with a woman named Dr. Sarah Blackwell, who specializes in domestic abuse. Yes, I had 2 Sarahs in my life. It got confusing. Therapy was hard, confronting how much of myself I'd lost, understanding how the abuse worked, learning to trust my own perceptions again. "You're not crazy," Dr. Blackwell told me in our first session. "You were gaslit for years. Your reality was constantly being questioned. It's going to take time to trust yourself again." She was right. Simple decisions felt enormous. What to eat for dinner, what to wear, whether to say yes or no to social invitations. I'd spent so long having someone else make decisions for me that making them myself felt terrifying. But slowly, gradually, I got better. I reconnected with my parents, told them everything. My mother cried. My father wanted to have a talk with Daniel, which I politely declined. "We were so worried," my mother said. "You just disappeared, stopped calling, stopped visiting. We thought we'd done something wrong." "You didn't. I did. I let him isolate me." "You didn't let him do anything. He manipulated you. There's a difference." Sarah, friend Sarah, was there for every step. She never said "I told you so," even though she could have. She just showed up, with wine, with food, with friendship. I got promoted at work. My supervisor pulled me aside 3 months after the divorce. "Emily, your work has been exceptional lately. You're back to the doctor you were before. Actually, you're better. I'd like to offer you the position of department head." I accepted. Not because Daniel would have wanted me to. Not because I had to prove anything. But because I wanted it. People ask me, colleagues, friends, other survivors, how I didn't see it. How I, a smart, educated doctor, ended up in an abusive marriage. Here's what I tell them. Abuse doesn't announce itself. It doesn't wear a sign. It starts small. A comment here, a criticism there, slowly escalating. By the time you realize what's happening, you're already in too deep. It can happen to anyone. Doctors, lawyers, professors, stay-at-home parents. Education doesn't protect you. Money doesn't protect you. Intelligence doesn't protect you, because abuse isn't about logic, it's about control. And controllers are very, very good at finding your vulnerabilities. For me, it was my compassion, my desire to help, my tendency to see the best in people. Daniel weaponized my strengths against me. The lie I told about his infertility seemed selfless at the time. I was protecting him, but really, I was enabling him. Giving him permission to abuse me, making myself responsible for his feelings. I should have told him the truth, should have left when he first criticized me, should have maintained boundaries. But should have is easy in hindsight. In the moment, when you're in love, when you think you can fix things, when you believe the apologies and promises, it's different. I'm telling you this story for a reason. If you're in a relationship where you're constantly apologizing for things that aren't your fault, that's a red flag. If your partner isolates you from friends and family, that's abuse. If you find yourself changing who you are to avoid conflict, that's not love. If you're afraid of your partner's reaction to normal things, that's not okay. If you're reading this and thinking, that sounds like my relationship, please listen. It's not your fault. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You deserve better. Leaving is hard. I won't pretend it isn't. It's terrifying and complicated and messy. There are financial considerations, children to think about, social pressures, family expectations, but staying is harder.
Staying costs you your sanity, your self-worth, your life. You deserve respect. You deserve kindness. You deserve a partner who builds you up instead of tearing you down. There are resources, hotlines, shelters, lawyers who specialize in domestic abuse cases, therapists who understand trauma, organizations that provide financial assistance. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. They're available 24/7. They can help you make a safety plan. They can connect you with local resources. If you suspect someone you know is being abused, don't stay silent. Reach out. Let them know you're there. Don't judge them for staying. Just be present. Sometimes just knowing one person believes you is enough to change everything. It's been 18 months since I left Daniel. 18 months of therapy, growth, setbacks, and victories. I'm not going to tell you everything is perfect. I still have bad days. Days where I doubt myself. Days where I feel that old fear creeping back. But I also have good days. Great days. Days where I wake up in my apartment, look at my thriving plants, and think, I did this. I survived. I'm free. I'm dating again. Cautiously. Very cautiously. My therapist says I'm appropriately paranoid, which I think is her way of saying I'm doing it right. I've learned to recognize red flags early. I've learned to trust my instincts. I've learned that being alone is infinitely better than being with someone who makes you feel small. I've also learned that strength isn't about never being broken. It's about putting yourself back together. Sometimes the cracks make you stronger. Victoria was convicted, by the way. Securities fraud, forgery, attempted theft. She got 3 years in federal prison. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel bad either. I feel nothing, which is probably the best outcome. Daniel sold his remaining shares in Thornton Medical and moved to Florida. I heard he's working for a medical supply company, much smaller than his father's empire, a middle management position. It's what he deserves. Not tragedy, not drama, just mediocrity. As for me, I'm thriving. My department is exceeding all performance metrics. I'm publishing research again. I'm laughing again. I'm myself again. The irony isn't lost on me. I'm a reproductive medicine specialist who helps people have families. I still don't have children of my own. Maybe someday I will, through adoption or donor sperm, or maybe I'll meet someone and it'll happen naturally. Or maybe I won't have children, and that's okay too. My worth isn't determined by my fertility. It never was. I'm enough, just as I am. And so are you. Freedom isn't a moment. It's not signing divorce papers or walking out the door or blocking a phone number. Freedom is a process, a daily choice, a gradual rebuilding of self. Some days freedom is loud, celebrating victories, reclaiming your name, standing up for yourself. Some days freedom is quiet, watering your plants, reading a book without criticism, sleeping without fear. Both are valid, both are powerful. If you're in an abusive relationship right now, listening to this story, please know you're not alone. You're not broken. You're not crazy. You're surviving, and survival is an act of courage. The first step is the hardest. Admitting there's a problem, acknowledging the abuse, asking for help. But once you take that first step, the next one becomes easier, and the one after that, until one day you realize you're not just surviving anymore. You're living. And that makes all the difference. My name is Emily Reeves. I'm 33 years old. I'm a reproductive medicine specialist, a department head, a survivor, and a woman who knows her worth.
This is my story, and if it helps even one person find the courage to leave, to heal, to reclaim their life, then every moment of pain was worth it. You are strong enough. You are brave enough.
You are enough. Freedom begins with the first step. Take it. I promise you, it's worth it. If this story resonated with you, or if you know someone who needs to hear it, like this video and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs hope. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most.